All right. So as we get started on 2.4, I just want to make sure that we need to make sure we're up to speed on what we're going to be doing. So let's do this little warm up first to get started. So you do a couple of these, maybe not all of these, but just make sure you know how these work. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, we're going to combine like terms. So pause, do those for a second. You should get negative 6x, 17a minus 8, 12w minus 14, and then negative 9k plus 14. All right. So that's the first part. Let's make sure we know how to do that. Second part. Pause this again. Try to distribute these. Hopefully we can do that. So at 8x plus 40, negative 8x plus 36, 42 minus 7x, and negative 3x minus 3. All right. So that's kind of the quick overview. Here's what we're about to do. We're about to take these two things and combine them. So we're going to be combining like terms and distributing, which probably going to be distributing first most of the time, which in this case it is. So we're going to have an expression, and we want to make sure that it's in simplest form. Now, here's what simplest form means. It means that there are no like terms. So no like terms. So obviously that means we have to combine like terms. And we also want there to be no parentheses. So that means we need to distribute everything that can be distributed. All right, parenthesis. All right. So here's what that means. To simplify this expression, any expression, we can distribute first. All right. Then we can combine like terms. So what we're doing in 2.4 is pretty much combining what we did in 2.2 and 2.3, I think. Yeah. So we are going to first distribute. So we want to get rid of any parentheses by distributing. Then we want to get rid of any like terms by combining like terms. So we should be left with no like terms, no parentheses. If you still have like terms or parentheses, you have to keep going. So let's look at that. All right, so let's do a few of these just to begin with, and then maybe we'll start to skip around. So on number 1, here's what you first have to do. Before you do anything, just look at the problem. When you look at the problem, you want to identify, okay, what all do I have going on here? So what I have going on here is 3 it's right beside this parentheses, which means it's multiplied by that parentheses. So we have 3 times x minus 5 plus 8x plus 1. Now, you may think, well, I know that x and 8x are like terms, so I'm going to combine like terms. But here's why you can't do that. Multiplication always comes before adding or subtracting. So by order of operations, we have to do this first. That's why up here we said distribute first. So that gives you a little background as to why we're going to distribute first. So distributing first means we're really not going to touch this part until we distribute. So this plus 8x plus 1 should just come down over here. Now you can bring it down from the start or you can bring it down at the end. But you need to know right now I'm not touching that. But I am going to distribute this 3 to x. So when I multiply 3 times x, that's 3x. Then I'm going to multiply 3 by 5, but make sure you see there is a minus sign in front of that 5. So I treat that as if it's negative 5. So that would give me negative 15. All right. Now, I've done my distribution. I don't see any more parentheses, so this part is finished. I've checked the box of no parentheses. Now I need to check the box of no like terms. So let's go check and see if these are like terms or if we have any. So 3x gets 1 underline. And we want to see if anything else, any other term is a variable term with x in it, which 15's not, 1's not, 8 is. So that gets an underline. So we can underline that once, and then let's do everything else twice. So negative 15, we'll underline that twice. That's just a constant, no variable. So then we also have 1. So that gets 2 underlines. So if you remember, we can just cancel out or cross out anything that we use. So 3, and then this sign goes, this sign to the left of 8x goes with 8x, and it actually tells you what operation to do here. It tells you to take 3x plus 8x, so that would give us 11x. Now those are finished. Now we need to pay attention to this. This is a negative 15. So we are taking negative 15 and we are adding 1. So think about it this way. I've told you several times. Think about this like it were money. If I owe someone negative 15 or $15, that means I'm in the negative. Like if you have a bank account and you spend, I don't know, 15 more than you really have, you have minus $15. So if I only add 1 to that, like let's say I owe you $15 and I only give you $1, I still owe you 14 more dollars. So I'm still going to stay in the negative. So we know that this is going to be equal to a negative number. Then ignore the negative up here and just take 15 minus 1 and figure out the difference between those two. So the difference between those two would be 14. So this would be negative 14. All right? So then that gives us minus 14 down here, which we can make it all the same color. 11x minus 14 is what we're left with. So we can double check to make sure we did this correctly, or at least we are in simplest form, because we could have our numbers wrong, but at least we would know we're in simplest form by doing this. I don't have any parentheses. 11x, 14 can't combine. So we know that we have checked the box of no parentheses and no like terms. So at least I know this is in simplest form. Now, we could have jacked up the pluses and minuses and all that, but whatever. It doesn't really matter. Well, I guess it does matter, but we just want to make sure that we get this in simplest form. At least we can double check that. But we also, I mean, it would be nice if we get to a point where we don't really have to worry about the adding and subtracting. All right, so let's do another one. So number 2, you'll see on number 2 that we have 5 parentheses n plus 6. So we have 5 multiplied by this n plus 6, and then we have minus 21 here on the end. So once again, remember this. Distributing comes before any like terms, before you can combine any like terms. So we're going to distribute this first, 5 to n and 5 to 6. Now I'm going to start doing this a little bit quicker because I'm hoping we're going to pick up the pace and be able to do this a little bit faster. So 5 times n is 5n. 5 times 6, and this is a plus sign, so 5 times positive 6 is going to give us plus 30. And then we bring down this minus 21 at the end. All right. Now, if I just underlined 5n once, you would see there's nothing else with an n in the problem or in the expression. So that means 5n just doesn't really have any like terms. So that part's already done for us. That's good. But then we have 30 minus 21. So the difference between those two would be positive 9. So that's a plus 9, or that tells us that we have a plus 9. So then our problem is done. Now, once again, we can double check simplest form. We probably want to double check our adding and subtracting too, but let's just double check the simplest form because I'm a wizard and I always add and subtract correctly. So now, if we check simplest form, here's what we're checking for once again. No parentheses, no like terms. So let's see if we did that. So 5n plus 9. Are there parentheses? No. Are there like terms? N is the variable for 5n, and the variable term can't add with a constant, which is 9, with no variable. So yes, well, no, these two aren't like terms, so we're good on that part. Let's do this. You try to do number 3. So you pause this, do number 3, and here's what you should get. So I'll work through it. All right. Let's see. Should have gotten distribute here and here, negative 7w minus 28 plus 2w minus 15, because the like terms have to be done after we distribute. Then 7, negative 7w, 2w, and then we can double underline negative 28, negative 15. All right, so we should end up with negative 7w plus 2. That would be negative 5w. Negative 28 minus 15 would be minus 43. So negative 43. All right. Now, hopefully you did that one correctly. You can double check simplest form. I'm assuming if we missed this, it's probably because of the adding and subtracting, if I had to guess. Now, let's go to number 4. So on number 4, you try this one, and then we'll do it. I'll do it. So pause this, try number 4. So here's number 4. We have to distribute first once again. That would give us 48. 12 times 4 is 48 minus 12k, because this is a negative. Well, minus sign, so it means a negative. So we bring down that minus because 12 was positive. All right. So then we have minus 9k. So then our only like terms are going to be right here with 12k and 9k. And if I already start out with a negative 12 and I subtract a number, I'm going to stay in the negatives. So that means 48 minus, and then I can add 12 and 9, and that would be minus 21. Yeah, so minus 21k. All right. So let's skip around again. Let's go look at some harder ones. Let's see. Let's look at number 5 just because I know that this could be a question we have. All right. So number 5. First of all, you pause it and you try this, and then we'll do it together. So on number 5, here's what we have. We have 6 times r minus 2 minus r plus 26 minus 7r. So first we want to clear any parentheses, which means distribute. So 6 times r is 6r. 6 times a negative 2 is going to give us minus 12 or negative 12. Then we bring down minus r plus 26 minus 7r. Now, when you write down this r, you may want to put this down, that is 1r, because anytime we have just a variable by itself, there's an understood 1 to be in front of it. So that way when you do this combined like term step, it won't be as confusing. So now if we look at 6r, underline that once. Let's find another term with r. That would be our negative 1r or minus 1r. And then we also have minus 7r over here. So if we do those step by step, we're saying 6r minus 1r, which now changes to 5r. Then we are also going to subtract that again by 7r. So that's going to give us negative 2r. All right. Then if we go back and we look at what we could double underline, we could double underline this and this because those are just constants. So those would go together. All right. So then a negative 12 plus 26. This is actually what this says. If we wanted to switch this around, we could. Actually says 26 minus 12. If we want to flip them around, that makes it a little bit easier to do. But you could also think about this. If I go to a store and they say you want to buy something for $12, that means I owe them $12. So that would be like negative 12. If I pay them 26, they would owe me change, which means I'm now on the positives. So you could also do it that way. But it may be easier for some of you to just flip these around, and we would get plus 14. All right. Let me see if we have any more that are difficult. Yeah, we do. We have a couple that get a little bit more difficult. So let's do those. So let's skip down to number 8. All right, so number 8. This is the biggest issue I've seen when teaching this. So the biggest issue I see is a problem like number 8, because if you look at number 8, let's just break down what we have first. We have 12x minus 2, and then that's multiplied by 9 minus x. Here's what usually gets people thrown off, is this minus right here. So there's one of 2 ways you can go about it. I'll give you the way that I recommend you going about it, and then you can do it. I'll show you another way you could do it, and you can just kind of decide which one you like better. So first of all, what I would do is bring down 12x, Because when we simplify expressions, we don't do we don't combine our like terms before we distribute. So we know we're going to distribute. So let's bring down that 12x. Now, what we have left over, if we just mark that out, is a minus 2, but let's view that like it were negative 2. So if I view that like it's negative 2, that means I'm going to distribute a negative 2 to 9. Now, if that's a negative number as a result, I'm just going to write a minus here. If it's a positive number, once I multiply, I'll write plus here. So negative 2 times a positive 9, the signs are different, so our answer is negative. So I can just make that minus 18. All right? Then I can take that negative 2 once again, because we're viewing this as it's negative 2, times x, but let's do the same thing and use this minus with x and say that's negative x. So now this is a negative times a negative. The signs are the same, so the result is positive. So we write a plus sign and then 2x. Now, let's finish the problem and then I'll show you the other way you could do this, because I think most of you should do it this way, but I'm also just biased to this way. So combining like terms, 12x, 2x, so that would give us 14x minus 18, and we're finished. Now, here's the other way you could do this problem. You could do this. You could say, I'm going to bring down my 12x, and then I want to view this like it were just 2. So we could take out the 2, but then what you would have to do is bring over this minus. You would have to say, okay, that's a minus, and you would have to bring down that minus and actually start another parentheses. Because what we're about to do, this entire minus would go towards that parentheses. This is why I don't like doing it this way, but you can. So when I do 2 times 9, that's 18. And then when I do 2 times negative x, that is minus 2x. But then we still had all of this subtracted, so we would actually have to do another round of distribution, or we would have to say this is really 12x minus 18 and then plus 2x, which personally, this way to me seems easier. All right, so let's do this. Let's go down to 13. Let's do a hard one. Let's see if you could do 13 by yourself, doing what we've just done on all the other problems. So pause this and see if you can do it. All right, so here's what we've got. We've now got 2 places where we distribute, but what we're going to do is just distribute in both places. Okay, so let's start with this left side. Well, the farthest to the left portion. 8 times 2k would be 16k. 8 times a negative 7 would be, what is that, 56? Yeah, minus 56 because it's negative. Now, this next portion is where we have to do this again. Just like we did in number 8, whatever was left over, we viewed as a negative when there was a minus in front of it. So now, we've already distributed this portion, so let's just mark it out. What we have left is negative 4. So now let's distribute that like it were a negative number. And if it becomes a negative, we just write minus. If it becomes positive, we just write plus. That way we can keep it simple in our brains. So now, negative 4 times k is just negative 4k. So we write that as minus 4k. Then negative 4 times a positive 5. The signs are different, so it's negative. So it would be a minus 20 because we're going to write all of our negatives as minuses. Now, we can combine like terms. So there, here, and here. All right, so then 16 minus 4k is 12k. And then 56 minus 20 would be negative, and then we would add 56 and 20, so it would be negative 76. All right, let's do one more. Let's see if you could do 14. All right, so pause and do 14, and then I'll explain it. All right, so on 14, first of all, we distribute first before anything else. So this 14y is actually just going to come down. Now, if we bring that down and mark it out, you'll see there's a negative or a minus sign left in front of this parentheses. So just like there's an understood 1 in front of, like, let's say x, there's always an understood 1 there. There's also an understood 1 right here. So what we actually have to do is distribute a -1 to each of these. So we have to distribute still, but we're distributing a -1. So -1 times y would be -y, so minus y is what we write. Then -1 times -2, the signs are the same, so we have +2, so we write that as a plus sign, and then 2. Then we cross that out. Now, this is a plus in front of 5, so let's just keep that as a +5. So we know when we distribute here to 5y, it's going to be plus 5y. And when we distribute that 5 to 9, those are both positive, so it's going to be plus 45. All right, so now we just combine all of our like terms. So underline these, and this, and then we can double underline this and 45. All right, so now 14y minus, once again, there's always a 1 here, minus 1y is just 13y. But we still have one more over here, so we have to add that, so plus 5y, then mark that out, and that would give us 18y. All right, so then the only thing we have left is plus 2 and plus 45, so that gives me positive 47. All right, so that is the quick version. Well, I guess it's not really quick. That was the long version of simplifying expressions. So be sure, practice the problems on the homework. You may have to help each other out, but that is it.